We'd like to wind up our conversation this evening. It's been very, very enlightening, very, very spiritual. And we want to close out just with some context before we close out with our last topic. And when I say context is, there has been talk about regular and irregular lines. And much of the quotation that you usually hear concerning regular and irregular lines, whether they're correctly dividing the truth or not, a lot of the quotations that I mentioned are coming from statements concerning Edson White. But most people, even many of our viewers or supporters or people watching this video, may not understand the history behind Edson White and the Morning Star project. Some of these quotations concerning working agencies deal with Madison, among other places. And they're not familiar with the history of Madison and so on. So we want to take just a few moments and apprise those watching concerning a little bit more about the Madison School and what Ellen White said concerning it, Edson White's work in the South and what he actually raised up, what that boat actually was, the Morning Star, and give context to what actually were these irregular lines that were being looked at. Because you can look at the quotation and see what it actually meant, but in real life dynamic 3D, what were the irregular lines he was doing and what really mean? So let's look at that for a little bit of context and then close with our last section dealing with why we are in this work of School of the Prophets in this last generation before we close. Anyone want to jump in and talk about School of the Prophets before we, Madison School or Morning Star?
Edson White.
Edson White.
When you look at the history of Edson White, you cannot overlook the fact that he was driven by evangelism. He wanted to win souls. And within the conference, there was a hindering of the work. And as a result, the Lord gave to his mother, Ellen White, the vision. And he went out, Edson White, and he established this Morning Star project. It's a mission, a system of evangelism. He erected schools, worship centers, publishing houses, even training schools, and education work, Edson White. And it's interesting, as he began to do this work, the church leaders looked at Edson as a person and his work, his ministry, as not being a part of the church because he did not connect his ministry to the conference. They had no control over that work. And instead of the brethren giving praises to God and even supporting the work, no, they turned around and threw black balls at Edson and inspired the people not to support the work of Edson White, erecting churches and schools and a publishing work. I want to read the statement for you. From Manuscript Releases, Volume 3, page 264. Now, paragraph 1 states the following, just to recap. Don't want to go too much into this. It says this: when Edson's letters presented the work that he was doing in the southern field by his boat, used as a meeting house, when he told of the gathering of the children for Sunday school, of the invitations he received to hold meetings, of the souls who were becoming interested in these meetings, of the naked to be clothed, and the sick to be healed, and nothing in the way of means. What means should be used for this work? To carry forward the work that should be done was presented to me in the night season. Sister White says, my guide said, direct quote. She quotes her guide. This work will be sowing seed for time and for eternity. And when the instruction was given, the angels of the Lord will go before Edson. Edson will be accounted out of line. But many ought to be out of the lines that have been maintained to be the regular routine. And unless they themselves come into line, they churchmen, leaders, they will say, we are the church, the temple of the Lord. The temple of the Lord are we. But God responded, unless that temple is purified, cleansed, sanctified, God will not give them his presence in the temple of which they boast. The situation was again presented, and the urgency of occupying the fields that were presented to me, then being worked under the supervision of God, using Edson White as his agency, working agency, to open the field. Those who should have rejoiced to see something done were determined to give no recognition to Edson White or the work, because he did not work in the regular lines. God has presented before you, church brethren, leaders, how he regarded the regular lines. The regular lines had need to be broken as a potter's vessel is broken and reconstructed.
Clear statement. Do you want to touch on that, Elder? All right, we want to just look just for a second at Madison School and close up. In the idea of the Madison School, we talked about it. We know that Elder Sutherland, McGann, and others organized a school in Tennessee. What is generally not known, and you can look at a number of different passages. Again, if you want handouts on these topics, you can contact Prophesy Again, you can contact Gospel of Health or EG Bible School, and we get you a whole bunch of different handouts that outline some of these things. But the Madison School, we know historically had a job of raising up evangelists, teachers, all types of workers for the gospel work. And also the institution itself raised up churches, health facilities, a publishing work all throughout its locale, all throughout the South, all throughout Tennessee. This work was told, as we read it before, not to organize itself under the conference. Let's just read that quickly and see again that we're looking at the fact that these entities, whether they talk about Shireman and his work, or Sutherland and McGann with Madison, or Edson with the Morning Star, these are templates of true self-supporting work. Work can be self-supporting and under the umbrella of the conference. That's fine too. However, when we talk about the ways and means by which the church now does it, do you, like David Gates, have to sign a letter saying that you can give all your rights over to the conference to do self-supporting work? Now, self-supporting work then. These men took it upon themselves to follow God's principles and go forward, and they were not wrong in establishing these health centers and churches and so on without conference money or authority. I also want to note that Edson White also established a powerful health ministry, health food ministry called Dixie Health Foods. And the success of Dixie Health Food, one of the main reasons why the brethren started to try to see interest in him and try to woo and now talk to him favorably and try to bring him, quote unquote, under their umbrella, because Dixie Health Food became very lucrative. Dixie Health Food became Morning Star, which became Morning Star Foods, and we know Morning Star Food was just recently sold to the world by the brethren. That was started by Edson White. This is why the Southern work exploded, because of the use of the health work. But look at what it says concerning the Madison School before we close our last section. It says this. Let's see if I lost my paper here. We're reading from the book Spalding McGann, Special Testimonies, 11, page 30 through 32. It says this. Our brethren must guard themselves against the repetition of such experiences. What does she mean by that? She said, the Lord does not require that the educational work at Madison shall be all changed about before it can receive the hearty support of our people. The work that's been done there is approved of God, and he forbids that this line of work shall be broken up. The Lord will continue to bless and sustain the workers so long as they follow his counsel. Now, what was she meaning shouldn't be broken up? What was she meaning that this method that they would not be supported? Why? Let's read a little bit before, the paragraph before it. It says, many obstacles have been placed in the way of the pioneers of the Madison School of a nature to discourage them and drive them from the field. These obstacles were not placed there by the Lord. In some things, the finite planning and devising of men have worked to counter the work of God. Let us be careful, brethren, lest we counterwork and hinder the progress of others, and so delay the sending forth of the gospel message. This has been done, and this is why I'm now compelled to speak so plainly. If proper aid had been given to the school enterprise at Madison, its work might now be in a more favorable, far more advanced stage of development. The work at Madison had made slow advancement, and yet, in spite of the obstacles and the hindrances, these workers have not failed nor become discouraged, and they have been established to accomplish good work in the cause of God. What it says here, last paragraph. The word does not set limits about his workers in some lines as men are wont to set. In their work, Brother McGann and Sutherland have been unnecessarily hindered unnecessarily. Means have been withheld from them because in organization and management of the school, it was not placed under control of the conference. Now, brothers and sisters, this is what was attempted to be broken up. This is what was hindering, in some people's minds, them being accepted. This is what people thought was a limiting factor. She says, this should not be. They don't have to change their organization. They are fine just as they are. These schools, these examples, or object lessons, the Morning Star with Edson White, the Sutherland McGann School, Madison, the work of Scheinman and others is an example of what the true work is. Go ahead, Elder.